In 2006, an all-girl cheer squad from rural Missouri vanished the night before their regional championship. The case went cold. No witnesses, no bodies, no suspects. 18 years later, during a routine stadium renovation, workers uncover human remains buried beneath the cheer squad's old practice field. A reopened investigation reveals decades of suppressed evidence, a hidden affair, and a long-forgotten tragedy that implicates a beloved coach and a community desperate to protect its legacy. It was supposed to be the biggest weekend of their high school lives. April 12, 2006, just 3 days before the Missouri Regional Cheer Championships. The Silver Lake High Cheer Squad had spent months preparing. For the 8 girls on the team, regionals meant more than a trophy. It was scholarships, recognition, and for some, a way out of their small town. That Wednesday afternoon, practice ran long. Witnesses say the girls stayed on the back field. The old one behind the gym, the one nobody used anymore. The school had stopped maintaining it after the new turf field was installed, but the cheerleaders liked the privacy. No football players, no teachers, no gawking freshmen. Just dust, dry grass, and time to rehearse. At 6:47 p.m., Kendra Holt, the team captain, sent a text to her mom. "Running late. Gonna carpool to Mallory's after." Coach Terry Mallory's house. That was the plan. Sleepover, then hit the road together in the morning. But that was the last message anyone ever received. By 9:00 p.m., parents started texting. No answers. By 10, calls went straight to voicemail. By midnight, 3 families had called the sheriff. At 3:12 a.m., a deputy located Coach Mallory's van, parked behind the locked gate near the south end of the practice field. The grass was undisturbed. The van was empty. No signs of forced entry. No dropped phones. No blood. Just silence. 8 girls and their coach had vanished into the Missouri night, without a sound, without a trace, and without a single security camera in sight. The town of Silver Lake panicked. Search teams formed by morning. Helicopters were called in. Divers combed the nearby quarry. Volunteers pushed through the woods. Dogs were brought from Jefferson City. For 6 days they searched. Nothing. No footprints. No tire tracks, no clothing, no phone pings. It was as if the cheer squad had been swallowed whole, erased, and the deeper investigators dug, the less they found. School staff gave statements, friends offered theories. There was no sign of trouble, no reason to run, no enemy to fear. Some said the girls had a fight with the football team. Others blamed Mallory, said she'd gotten too close to one of the seniors. But gossip was all anyone had. No bodies, no evidence, just cold spring air and fading banners. By the end of the month, the FBI had been called in. They stayed for 3 weeks, then handed the case back to state police. The phrase, "no credible leads," became routine. A year later, the team was quietly removed from the school's official records. The cheer trophy case near the gym was boarded up during renovations, and eventually, people stopped talking about what happened that night. 18 years passed. The town moved on, publicly at least. New students came and went. The old practice field grew wild, full of weeds and gravel, a place no one wanted to walk through, even during daylight. Until one spring morning in 2024, during routine construction for a new science wing, when a backhoe hit something solid beneath the grass. And Silver Lake learned the squad never left town after all. It started like any other construction delay. In April 2024, Silver Lake High broke ground on its long-delayed science building. The plan was to level the old backfield, the same one where the cheer squad had practiced 18 years ago, and lay concrete foundations. No one questioned the site. No one remembered it as anything more than a patch of dry earth behind a locked fence. But on the 3rd day of excavation, just after 11:00 a.m., a contractor operating a cat excavator struck something solid beneath the soil. At first, They thought it was old piping, maybe a foundation slab from a shed that used to sit on the property in the 80s. But when the dust settled, they saw what it really was. A rusted piece of metal with a welded edge and artificial flooring. Beneath that, plastic sheeting, layers of it. They stopped the machine immediately and called it in. By 3:00 p.m., police had cordoned off the area, and within 12 hours, the state forensic team was on site with portable floodlights and tents. What they uncovered was a shallow, man-made vault, approximately 20 feet wide and 30 feet long, buried under less than a meter of compacted dirt, reinforced by plywood and sealed on all sides with plastic wrap and industrial tape. Inside were 9 skeletal remains, all laid out in rows, neatly, deliberately. Each skeleton was placed on what appeared to be folded cheer mats, now decayed and water-damaged. Scraps of red and white polyester were still visible beneath the bones, fragments of Silver Lake uniforms. The remains were consistent with 9 young females. The medical examiner would later confirm through dental records and DNA that they were the 8 missing cheerleaders and Coach Terry Mallory. No one spoke that night. The news crews didn't arrive until morning, but by then the damage was done. Silver Lake was no longer a town with a mystery. It was a town with a grave. Sheriff Dennis Hill gave a brief statement the next day. "We are treating this as a homicide investigation. It is now active, and we are reopening all prior case materials. The families of the victims have been notified." What he didn't say, but what the town quickly figured out, was that this burial site wasn't improvised. It was planned. The construction, the sealing, the preservation, it all pointed to someone who knew what they were doing, and someone who had access to that field long after the disappearances. Speculation ignited immediately. Who had access to the property? Who had keys to the back gate? Why wasn't this discovered during the initial investigation? And why were the bodies so carefully preserved? By the end of the week, one more chilling fact emerged. The field had been resurfaced 2 years after the girls vanished. In 2008, a private landscaping donation had covered it with fresh soil and gravel, a fact that had gone unreported at the time. And the name on that landscaping permit? Kenneth Mallory, Terry Mallory's ex-husband. A man no one had questioned. A man who had quietly left town 3 months after the disappearance and never returned. The discovery tore the town in half. Some believed the case had finally turned. Others claimed it was a setup, that someone had buried those girls later, just to frame him. But there was no doubt now. The squad never left Silver Lake. They had been here the entire time, buried under the very place they practiced, the very place they trusted, and now everyone wanted to know why. In the weeks following the discovery of the vault, Silver Lake High turned into a shrine. Students left flowers at the edge of the old practice field. Former teachers stood in silence, staring at the floodlights and yellow tape. For some, it felt like closure. For others, it was the opening of a wound they had buried for 18 years. The FBI rejoined the case, and within days the focus narrowed to a name that had quietly slipped from the town's memory. Kenneth Mallory, the ex-husband of Coach Terry Mallory, and, as records now showed, the man who had ordered the soil delivery that covered the girl's grave in 2008. But there was a problem. Kenneth Mallory had died in a car accident in Arizona 10 years ago, which meant either he wasn't involved or someone had used his name. Investigators turned their attention back to Coach Terry Mallory. Officially, she had been a beloved figure, a respected teacher, a former state cheer champion herself. But as they sifted through old personnel files, interview transcripts, and forgotten emails, a different picture emerged. There were signs, subtle, quiet signs. A withdrawn student report from 2005 that mentioned emotional pressure. A parent complaint never followed up, about strange after-hours practices. A journal entry found in the belongings of Kendra Holt, recovered from the vault. Mallory's rules keep changing. Sometimes we practice until 10, but if I ask to go home, she says I'm not committed enough. I don't want to lose regionals, but it's starting to feel like a cult, like she owns us. These were not the words of girls ready to run away. These were girls under pressure, held by someone who blurred the line between leadership and control. It turned out that after her divorce, Terry Mallory had been living on school property. Her small house just beyond the south fence had been allowed as a temporary faculty residence. But after 2006, no one had entered it again. Until now. A new search warrant turned up evidence long forgotten and long buried. Inside her locked bedroom closet, agents found 6 old VHS tapes labeled with dates and initials. The labels matched the cheer squad. What was on them has never been released to the public, but officials confirmed they were recordings of closed-door rehearsals taken without consent. More damning still was a journal. Mallory's own handwriting, page after page of obsessive commentary on discipline, loyalty, and eliminating weakness. She wrote about total unity, about breaking them down to build them right. The final entry was dated the day before the disappearance. Tomorrow they'll understand. It's not about winning. It's about purity. And I'll be proud of them when it's done. Still, one question remained. How did she bury them? Terry Mallory was 5'5" and 120 pounds. There was no sign of heavy equipment, no receipts, no witness reports of digging, and she couldn't have done it alone. That's when a name reemerged. Someone only briefly mentioned in the original investigation, someone who lived quietly in town for years before suddenly disappearing. Joel Curtis, assistant janitor at the school, mid-30s at the time, quiet, kept to himself, known to have a friendship with Mallory. He left Silver Lake 2 weeks after the squad vanished. No forwarding address, no contact since. And in 2024, he was still missing. Authorities now believed Mallory may have orchestrated the entire event, emotionally controlling her team, manipulating their trust, and possibly working with a second person to carry out the burial. Whether it was a group punishment, a breakdown, or something darker, no one could say. But the truth was no longer hidden. It was here, in fragments and in bones. And Silver Lake was finally starting to remember what it had worked so hard to forget. In a small town, the people you grow up with become more than familiar. They become part of the structure. They're not questioned. They're trusted. And when something dark happens, the instinct isn't to investigate them. It's to protect the memory you've built. That's why Terry Mallory was never truly suspected. She was Coach Mallory. She ran pep rallies, organized fundraisers, led chants in parades. Her photo hung in the hallway, arms around her squad, grinning beneath a championship banner. She was one of us, and when she vanished with those girls, the town chose to mourn her alongside them, chose to bury its doubt right next to its fear. But now, 18 years later, as investigators pieced together journals, maps, surveillance footage, and forensics, a darker portrait formed. Terry Mallory had control. She had access. She had motive. And she had help. A partial fingerprint was recovered from a broken plastic tarp inside the burial vault. After a long-delayed federal cross-match, it returned one name: Joel Curtis. Curtis had changed his identity in 2007. He'd been living in Oregon under an alias, working as a groundskeeper at a retirement home. He was arrested quietly. Under interrogation, Curtis gave fragments, enough to confirm what many feared, but never the full truth. He claimed the girls were confused, resisting the training, and that Mallory just wanted to fix them. Fix them. He said it like it was obvious, like it was logical, like discipline justified death. According to Curtis, Mallory had become convinced the team was fracturing. Emotionally, morally, personally. Some were skipping practice, others wanted to quit. She believed if they left before regionals, her program would collapse. So she gave them a final practice, a closed-door session, no phones, no clocks, no escape. Curtis didn't say what happened after that. He just said she wouldn't let them leave. By the time police arrived at his Oregon property, Mallory had been dead for nearly 2 decades. Her cause of death? Still unknown. Her body was never found. Whether she died in the vault with them or fled and died later remained unanswered. But in Silver Lake, the damage was done. The school removed her photo. The gym wall was repainted. The practice field was sealed permanently. Not built over, not replaced, just fenced off. A scar, nothing more. In October 2024, a public memorial was held for the victims. Hundreds came, some who hadn't spoken in years, some who had stayed silent, too afraid to believe what they felt back then. One speaker, a retired teacher, said it best. "We all thought we knew her, and maybe for a time we did, but sometimes monsters don't hide in shadows. They hide in routines. They hide in uniforms. They hide in the people who clap the loudest when the team takes the floor." The case was closed in January 2025. Joel Curtis accepted a plea deal. Life without parole in exchange for full confession. But even now, many in town believe he still didn't tell the full story, that someone else helped, that someone else knew, that maybe more secrets are still buried in Silver Lake. Maybe they always will be.